Welcome back to Radio Row, here with Mike Golic Jr. of DraftKings. Mike, thanks for a few minutes.
Absolutely, man. Good to talk to you.
You too. This is one of the weirdest interviews for me because you're the first person I've talked to that's taller than me.
I know the benefit of working in sports media is usually we're all sitting down, which is why anytime we're at events like this, most of us get the, oh, you're a lot taller than I imagined, which is a reminder that I have terrible posture when I sit down,
Yes.
too.
I've run into you a few times here in Vegas at the Super Bowl. The first time was opening night. And of course, where do I see you? Immediately making a beeline for Aaron Banks.
Oh, yeah.
Notre Dame offensive lineman. What did you and Banksy talk about?
Honestly, we talked about a little bit of stuff outside of football. We were talking about, since this game is a sequel, I was asking everyone what their favorite sequel was, what their favorite movie was. He had a couple good answers there, but then we also talked about guys doing things for their significant others, a la Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift, Kyle Juszczyk, and his wife Kristen. And so Aaron let me know that he bought his wife a car for Christmas. That was his love language there, so it felt like he did a pretty good job with that.
Wow, that is pretty good.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to tell me like deep secrets about the game plan.
No, he wasn't giving up any state secrets there. We did talk about, fun one for him is his former Notre Dame teammate, Drew Tranquil, on the other side in that Kansas City linebacker room, who last time in the AFC Championship game had to step up big. Willie Gay, a scratch right before the game with some of those neck spasms. And, Drew had played a bunch before that, but Aaron talked about, hey, listen, that's a guy that's got, great IQ from the neck up. He's got a lot of pass rush wiggle. They can use him in a lot of the blitz schemes that Steve Spagnuolo likes to account for. And so Banks said we got to be ready for a lot, and he's one of those versatile pieces on that defense that presents some unique challenges.
Well, you mentioned the Chiefs linebackers. I think Kyle's plan is to put those linebackers in a blender on Sunday. I think that Kyle's going to run the hell out of the ball, and then he's going to spam play action. And ideally, that's like his perfect game script.
Absolutely. I think for a lot of people looking at Super Bowl MVP bets, Christian McCaffrey's a pretty safe one if you believe the game script can go in favor of the 49ers, because both teams have really had a bit of a run defense problem, and the 49ers and what they can do in play action based off that and what it can do in dictating the terms. That matchup's the most exciting to me because Kyle's obviously such a compelling play caller. Steve Spagnuolo is such a well-known designer of these unique postseason game plans, and so which side's going to be able to get the other to tip their hands? And we know Spags loves to heat them up, and so if you can get into staying ahead of the chains with Christian in the first early downs and then be able to all of a sudden play with the eyes of that linebacker group with all the motion and eye candy that we know Kyle loves to use, you got a chance to tilt the scale in your favor in a matchup that's going to have a lot of firepower.
I still have nightmares about Chris Jones from what he did at the end of Super Bowl 54. He seems to really have a knack for raising up in the moment. He talked about they had a couple of pass rush moves and things they wanted to do in Kansas City in the AFC Championship game that they wanted to do early in the game. And he said no, because if we do it now, they're going to adjust and we're not going to be able to do it again later. So he saved it for the biggest moments of that game. So in my head, I'm like, what does he have cooking for my Niners?
He's like Mariano Rivera, but as a 330-pound defensive lineman. Like, he's a great closer, especially in the postseason. And I think that's something that, even for me, I played high-level college football. When I go in here and these NFL guys talk about their process, it is, hey, how am I going to sequence rushes throughout the game? For Chris, because he's one of the most double-teamed players in the sport on defensive line. It's, all right, how are we going to carefully deploy him in different spots throughout the game? Because most of being a pass rusher in the NFL, I like to give him grief because I say it's like being a baseball player. If you make 2 or 3 big plays a game, hey, you're in great shape and you're going to the Hall of Fame. But it's really an exercise in mental toughness for those guys because you're going to spend so much of the game occupied by double teams, getting a lot of wham looks and all these different things to try and slow you down. And it's, can you stay mentally dialed in enough on that plan to be able to execute on those 3, maybe 4 instances where you get a one-on-one matchup, and Chris has been one of the best in the NFL in doing that.
You mentioned your experience on the offensive line. I think of Colton McKivitz because poor Colton McKivitz always gets the other team's best pass rusher. He knows at some point Chris Jones is going to be lined up over him, and it could be one of those plays we're talking about. What is that like the night before the game when you know you're about to face somebody that can really bring it on the other side?
You know what? Night before the game, you're still in that mode where it's on paper, and a lot of this is stuff that you've practiced, you've drilled so much, like you're very calm leading into it, but it's that first time then your number gets called in the game. Because we all know the calls, and we all know, all right, once the protection gets set, how this is going to sort out. And I do remember some moments where all of a sudden you hear, all right, the center's sliding that way, the whole rest of the line might be sliding that way, and you're going to be on the island out here, and you got to just tighten the chin strap a little bit tighter, buckle down, and try and focus on your landmarks, try and focus on your hand placement and the plan that you've put in place, and try and execute it. But it is by no means a fun experience, man. It's a lot more fun when you got that guard coming out your way and you know, hey, if he spins inside, I got someone on cleanup crew right there, and you got to win those couple of matchups, though. Football, we have so many complicated parts of it. It's the most wonderful, violent chess match on earth, but at the end of the day, it's a bunch of little one-on-one battles, and eventually you've got to win one of those.
Talk about the difference in the legacies of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes if they get 3 as opposed to just having 2.
It's huge, and I mean 3 with a trajectory that shows no signs of slowing down. And if that's the case, then not only we've talked about Patrick and Tom Brady and some of these all-time great quarterback names, but someone brought it up the other day. What do we start to do with Andy?
Yeah.
You know, this many Super Bowls now, and I understand he didn't get over the mountaintop, and so this isn't horseshoes or hand grenades. You don't get credit for almost in Philadelphia, but he built a consistent monster there. It was NFC Championship, Super Bowl appearance, all built in, and then just picked up and did it elsewhere. We watched an offseason where a bunch of teams decided, hey, we don't want to give Bill Belichick the chance to do that. And so I think Andy deserves a lot of credit for that, and his place in the all-time coaching rankings is something we need to discuss a lot more if he's able to do this.
Absolutely, and I think of Andy Reid's Eagles because they're one of the few teams to consistently get to the NFC Championship game. I think they got to like 3 and 4 years.
Four and five years.
Just like Kyle. The teams that have done that in NFL history, most of them have won at least one Super Bowl. Obviously, the Eagles didn't do it. That's the danger area that Kyle Shanahan is in right now. I have said that Kyle has more to gain or lose in this one game than anybody else. If he gets one, his legacy goes to a whole different place as well.
Absolutely. Secured, and at a time right now where I don't want to say the clock is ticking or the window is closing or anything like that, but we know the job's going to get a lot harder for him and John Lynch when all of a sudden Brock Purdy costs money and isn't, you know, the guy with the roommate and all those storylines there. It changes the way you have to team build. The Chiefs are a testament to that. We've seen it. It's going to start to affect, you know, Joe Burrow and what's going on in Cincinnati. We've seen it with Josh Allen in Buffalo now, and so that's going to become a factor that changes the way they're able to go about this. They have a Death Star roster right now around a quarterback who has far outperformed his draft status and been this awesome story, and so there is something that has a feeling of a sense of urgency around that too.
Steve Young had a great line. He talked about Super Bowl Monday when you win, and he said quarterback is always about what you can't do.
Yeah.
But you win that Super Bowl on Super Bowl Monday, and the best part is the quiet, because nobody can say a damn thing. That's what Brock Purdy will get if he can finally win one.
It'll be the quiet that reflects what Brock Purdy's been this entire time. Just steady, even, unbothered by it. I so enjoyed, and I know it was, you know, went viral, the clip and the interaction between him and Nick Bosa. One of the coolest things I've ever seen, because you've got Nick, this guy, first of all, that talks about lacking confidence. If I looked like that, not only would I never wear a shirt, but I would have more confidence than anyone you've ever met. But it's a reminder that this game is so much about the 6 inches between your ears, and even for a guy with otherworldly physical ability, there is the pressure of the way he came in. It's different than the way Brock came in, but there's pressure nonetheless, and that respect and admiration looking at a guy that Nick goes, well, yeah, you should have barely been on the team, let alone been in the position to do what you're doing now, and the way he can, and that permeates through the rest of the team. You know, obviously different level, but in college, my last year, we went 12-0 with a redshirt freshman quarterback, and the one thing I always remembered about Everett Golston was his name, is he was always so even. When he would come and address us on the sideline, he was calm. The moment was never too big for him. He never had those big saucer eyes where he looked overwhelmed, and that allowed the rest of us to calm down and go, all right, we just got to do our job. We don't have to worry about doing his job or offsetting this guy. We just got to do our job, and Brock has done that for a roster full of all pros, and that matters a lot.
The best part of that conversation is Bosa says, did you think you were going to be this good? And Brock doesn't hesitate. He just says, I think I can be better.
Yep.
Like, that is a certain level of confidence or swag or whatever. I loved hearing that from him.
Yeah, in a day and age where, and I remember Field Yates, good friend at ESPN, was a scout in the NFL, always said, we draft traits, not production in the NFL. That's how this tends to go, especially at the top of it. But there is something to be said for these guys that you get, 46 straight starts to end his career at Iowa State. There's a lot of confidence that comes with being in the fire that long, no matter what level of football it is, if it's big-time Power 5, if it's a guy playing D2 football. When you've gone through and had to work through those situations in real time so much, it does give you a different confidence. And then we talk so much about the weapons for Brock. I think the one thing we underrate with that is when you grow up in an environment like that as a football player, things are healthy. They're in the right place. You don't have to, work behind an offensive line that's almost getting you killed, or try and go to a receiver core that's not, and it forces you into bad habits.
Yeah.
He's gotten not only such a good foundation in his habits, but then it's allowed him to do the stuff over the top that we've seen in some of the big moments this postseason. And so all of that, it's sort of like a holistic approach to building a quarterback that we kind of underrate.
The Niners' whole kind of team-building strategy has been get the quarterback last, which we usually don't see, but it seems to be obviously working right now. What's your final prediction for the game?
So you're probably not going to like that. I'm picking the Chiefs to win this one. Dude. Close one. I have the Chiefs 24-21. I think both of these teams, defense has been the medicine for Kansas City this year. I think the game script, if they do win this one, is going to be keeping it close to the best. It's going to be which of these teams is able to get over on the other's rush defense most consistently, dictate it, ball control. The Chiefs have kind of become the Patriots teams that used to try and beat them in the AFC, where they took the air out of the ball, and they just both happen to have quarterbacks that, when called upon, can make that 2-minute and 19-second throw to MVS to ice the AFC Championship.
If I was a totally different person, those would be fighting words. But you're you and I'm me. Mike Golic Jr., DraftKings, thank you very much.
Thanks, Dad. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for watching to the end of the video. Please like and subscribe to the Gold Standard YouTube channel. I promise you, we will continue to earn your time. We've been in Las Vegas all week long. We have plenty of Super Bowl content for you. Check out the channel, browse around, see what you like. I promise you, you will learn more and be a better, smarter 49ers fan.